Hello folks, I just wanted to post a short video with some keynotes and reminders about using sources within your essay. So you're going to see a list of different points that I'm going to cover, and I'm going to elaborate on each of these as I go over them. So if you have additional questions, of course, always reach out to me for additional explanation. But I did want to just give these out when we're working on one of our big tasks for the term. As just some, again, good refreshers on sort of using sources, and some of this is specific to MLA as well. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure and discuss and just remind everyone is that every single sentence within your essay needs to contain both an introductory phrase, also must contain in-text citation. Those two are different. So the introductory phrase is sometimes called a signal phrase, and that's what comes at the beginning of your quote, paraphrase, summary, whatever form you put the source material in. And that can be something as simple as according to, and then, right, the author's name or the article's name. Or you can give in the book titled, whatever the title is, so-and-so, right, the author, exclaims, claims, researched, questioned, whatever it is they did, and then the source material. But you have to have something at the beginning to make it clear where that information is coming from, and to make it clear for the reader that it is not your information or your idea. You may agree with it, you may be using it to support your ideas, but it's not your specific sentence or idea. It didn't come from your head, it came from somewhere else. The other end of that is that it also has to end with in-text citation. And that's sometimes referred to parenthetical citation, and it may be a little bit easier to remember by that name just because what you put at the end needs to go in parentheses. So it's that information that comes at the end of the sentence. Now, if you have page numbers should be the first thing. If you don't have page numbers, you can use paragraph number, and then you start it with PAR period, and then the paragraph number. That lets someone know that it's a paragraph and not a page. For page numbers, you don't do anything like that. Now, if you don't have either of those, which the reality is many online sources do not have those, then you have to go to the next piece of information that is listed in your full citation found on the Works Cited page. So you would literally flip to your Works Cited page, look and see, okay, well, if I use the author and the introductory phrase, then what's the next piece? Is the title the next piece? If I used the author and the title in the introductory phrase, what's the next piece of information that is going to be helpful for someone else to find the site? Is it the website title maybe that it came from, for instance? So it's always the next piece of information. Now, I want to just emphasize that when we're talking about intro phrases and in-text citation, yes, those need to be on quotations, and quotations are the most obvious place. But those have to be included anytime that you have a sentence with someone else's ideas other than your own. It doesn't matter if you put it into your own phrasing or if you quote it directly. Okay, so really important, even when you put source material in your own words, needs to start with an introductory phrase and end with in-text citation. That all kind of leads to my next point, which is when you do the in-text citation and the signal phrase, the beginning, and then when you come back to, totally flip that backwards. When you do the signal phrase at the beginning and come back to the in-text citation at the end, you want to make sure that you're not repeating the exact same information. So if you start with the author's name as a lead-in, right, according to writer James Smith, I wouldn't put Smith in that parentheses at the end of it because that's repetitive. There is no useful purpose to having the information repeated. So again, it's always that next piece of information. Well, maybe the title of the article is the next piece of information, so I would put that, okay? Now, when you have sort of those two pieces, that's the most basic elements, and those are really, along with your Works Cited page, the three pieces that you have to avoid plagiarism, okay? Got to make sure that you are introducing the phrase, it's clear it's not your own idea, and it's clear where it came from. Got to have that in-text citation at the end, giving the next piece of helpful information, and then of course, got to have the Works Cited page with the full citation. Those three elements, if you have those, even if they're not perfect, even if they're there, that is going to help you avoid plagiarism, but that isn't all that you need to consider when you're using source material. So the next piece that I want to cover is that when you're using that source material, you need to explain how the information or idea fits within your paragraph, okay? So in other words, don't assume your reader is going to get it or understand. Don't let a quote or a paraphrase speak for itself. You explain it. How does it fit in with your main idea? How does it help support your point? What does the quote even mean, right? Sometimes especially if it's a statistic or if it is some sort of longer explanation or includes technical language, probably a good idea to just explain the meaning of it and then tie it in. But you always want to make sure that you're explaining how it fits with your ideas. Don't just let someone try and figure it out themselves. Another trick to using source material is to avoid beginning and ending your body paragraphs with it. Start with your own ideas and end with your own ideas in each paragraph. This actually helps you for several reasons. First of all, it will make it clear what the main point of the paragraph is. So it'll help keep your focus of the essay on track, and it'll help keep each paragraph connected back to your thesis or your claim, however you want to think of it. Also, it will help you have flow to your essay. When you switch back and forth between starting with your ideas, then author's ideas, then yours, it can get really confusing about how everything ties together, what the connections are. Whereas if you consistently start with a clear topic sentence that is in your voice, your idea, that will help make it clear. And then when you introduce the source material, it'll be much clearer for your reader about what idea that source material is supporting, because you will have already stated it in the paragraph. If you end a paragraph with your own ideas, the problem is that means you haven't done the previous point, which is explain it. All right, so just make sure that you are adding in that clear explanation always to your source material. Make it clear how it's relevant and why it's credible and how it helps you prove your point or back up your idea. How is it evidence for what you're talking about? Next piece that I wanted to and this is true of any citation format. So this is not specific to MLA. This is very much like any citation format, this needs to happen, which is however you introduce the information within the essay in your intro phrases in your in-text citation, that needs to match up to one of your citations on the works cited page. So if I see an author's name introduced in the essay and there is no author's name that has the same, or no author with the same name on the citation page, that's a problem. Okay, so that information has to match up. The idea is that as an outside reader, I should be able to look at your in-text citation, get the information I need, flip to your works cited page, see the entire citation, and immediately be able to go use that citation to find the exact source in the exact place where you found it. That's how much information needs to be there, and that's why it's so important that everything lines up and connects together. Another thing to think of when you're using source material is that you use it with purpose and intention. So you are required to use sources that I have provided, which means you have to really think through how that's going to work. Okay, is it going to help you, or is it going to make it seem random or off topic? You have to think about what points you need to make in your essay so that you can include that information in a really purposeful and intentional way that makes sense, right? Where it really does help your essay versus maybe bringing it down or making it seem random. Don't ever just drop quotes in and think that's going to work. It doesn't work. It's really problematic because then it's going to cause issues with clarity as well as the quality of your essay. So just make sure you're being very intentional about what you put and where you put it. Another thing to consider is we went over special citation rules earlier in the term. So these included things like when to use a block quote, how to adjust a quote if it doesn't flow well within your essay, right? Maybe you need to change a word or you need to take a word out for it to make sense. You covered those special citation rules. Don't forget those. All that information is in your little Siegel handbook. Make sure that you're referencing it as you need to with this essay in particular. As a general rule of thumb, it is always better to cite something that doesn't need to be cited rather than not citing something that should have been. If you forget or you don't know or you're just unsure and so you don't cite something and it turns out that that actually needed to be cited, that's plagiarism. Whereas if you cite something and someone comes back and they're like, really, that's common knowledge, or it doesn't have to be cited. Okay, well, no harm, no foul, right? It's just a small error then versus being a plagiarism error. So it's always better to oversight. One other small sort of tidbit is don't forget to mark all titles in either quotation marks or italics within your essay and on the works cited page. So any longer title, or not longer titles, but titles of longer works or complete works, things like books, an entire 2-hour movie, an entire 2-hour play, those are considered long works. Those go in italics. An entire website, that's a title of a website, then therefore that's a long complete work, that gets italicized. Shorter works such as article titles, a Facebook post, any sort of social media comments, blogs, a specific poem, those are all pieces of a bigger source or a more complete source, therefore those ones get put into quotation marks. Many of your citations in text as well as on the works cited page will have titles that need to be both, where you'll have two sets of titles where one will need italics and the other one will need quotation marks. So just pay close attention to that. And then finally, just as a heads up, citation creators are amazing, okay? EasyBib is probably the one that I would recommend above others, but you can use, most of them are useful to some degree. Now, you do have EasyBib connected onto your website, and for those of you that haven't tried it, all it is you go on and it sort of prompts you through the process of creating each of your citations, and it makes it really easy, particularly when you're doing websites. Here's the trick. You have to make sure that you choose the right type of citation first of all, because otherwise it won't set it up correctly. It doesn't do all citations, so that can be another problem. And then the other thing that you want to always check is to make sure that you're adjusting and making any adjustments that need to be made in order to get it into correct format. Most of the citation creators come very close, but they are not perfect. And there's a lot of little errors that they make that you're going to want to fix in your own essay, okay? So citation creators, I'm not opposed to them. I think they can be a really useful tool. Remember that that's only the citation for the works cited page they do, so you still have to get that in-text piece down. But as far as it is sort of a good way to get a start on your works cited page, it's a good place to go. And our Canvas website, I have a link to EasyBib at the bottom. If you scan down to those helpful links, that's one of them that you have access to. So again, not bad to use, just make sure that you're double checking them and adjusting format. Final kind of note is just to use that little Siegel handbook. In the handbook, it's not perfect. It doesn't cover everything. But what it does do is it has a great sample essay at the end of the green MLA section. And in that sample essay, what it does is, first of all, the visual formatting is correct. It also does a nice job of introducing source material. And it has a nice sort of variety of what in-text citations look like or can look like. And then it has the works cited page at the end. So it really gives you that full, just quick glance view of what MLA looks like when it's in the essay itself. All right. So that's all I have. Again, just wanted to kind of post a quick video of reminders, things you can check on your own, check your essays for as you're working towards this final project. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day.